Hey guys, thank you for joining. So I'm going to be going live with Mindfully Grounded. I'm just going to wait for her to join the chat and then we're going to start talking. Um, I'm definitely going to be posting this to my account as soon as we're done with the interview. And as I did mention in my story, we did a live, I don't know, about a month ago, and unfortunately, my mic wasn't on the whole time, so I had to scrap the whole thing. So I'm going to be, so luckily we're going to be able to redo the interview, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm just going to wait for her to ask to join the live, and then we're going to start. And thank you to everybody who has already joined and is going to be watching. Okay, awesome. So she said that she's here. You just have to ask to join the live and I have to accept it. I'm not sure if I can even see how to do it on my end. All right, guys, just give us a few moments and I'll get her in here. I just accepted it. I'm still learning how to do live videos too. Okay, awesome. So she, hey,
I'm
hi.
new to Instagram Lives, like doing that. So I'm like, do I comment in the chat?
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm so new to it too, especially like running these on my own account. But yeah, you have to like ask to join, and then I didn't even know I have to accept it on my end too. So okay, but awesome, we're here. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I just went out and caught up with one of my friends that I grew up with that I used to train with, and then I was rushing back home and I'm like, okay, I need some steak. So I'm in a good clear mind. So I had a nice little steak and now I'm here and it's about to storm, but I'm of course in Florida and you're up north, so
It's been the weather has been a little cruddy, honestly, lately. It's like every other day if we get rain here. It honestly feels a lot like Florida weather. So
yeah,
I feel you.
every day here. At 3 o'clock, it's going to pour. So
Oh, it's okay. I feel like the way we eat honestly does like make us feel so much better on a daily basis, so it's all good. But I mentioned earlier in the live, like right when I started it, that we did an interview about a month ago, and then I was so disappointed that that I just had no audio from it, so obviously I wasn't going to post it. But we had a really great chat. Like I feel like we really got to know each other really well during it. So hopefully we can do another interview that's like just as good today. I'm sure we will.
yeah, I have really high expectations for it, and I feel like we both had so many different like connective issues, and we learned it was a lot of troubleshooting. So at least we learned a lot from it, but we did get to touch base on a lot of our background and our story, and I think that kind of laid the foundation for what we're going to do here today.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we had so many technical difficulties last time. But um so you are also an ex-vegan and you also did heal. I believe that you did say that you didn't heal, like you were never diagnosed with colitis or Crohn's, right? But it was some kind of an irritable bowel disorder.
Yes, I was diagnosed with an irritable bowel disorder in 2009, and my doctor also diagnosed me with GERD, but I had no idea what that was, and he wanted to put me on PPIs, which I had no idea what that was, so I just refused it. Um, but when my health insurance starts, just because I transitioned teaching, I am going to go and get checked for Crohn's just because of now, I'm a firm believer that a diet in some cases can completely heal people and completely put things into remission. But I have to be open and honest and authentic that sometimes that's not the case. There are some days when I still like I have trouble going to the restroom, and like even if I do go to the restroom, it takes a lot of work for me. And then afterwards, I'll be in pain. Like it's just so taxing on my colon for me to be able to do something that's so easy for other people. But I can say with an open heart that going carnivore, like I know my boundaries and I'm very connected to my gut, so I can pick up on its cues. I can pick up on how I'm feeling immediately.
Mm.
Whereas I felt a deep disconnection and just overall sickness. If you look on my page, I share a lot of vulnerability and honesty about my skin, about how I used to look. And people were like, "Is that a tumor?" I'm like, "That's my belly." Like, that was me on a daily basis eating fiber. And that's what my doctor prescribed me to do in 2009.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. As a vegan, because I've seen the picture that you posted on of your stomach. I mean, I can relate, but my bloating was never that extreme, but it was extreme. Like my stomach was always distended, and I told myself that it was normal at the time. Like I just thought it was just how my body looked, and since I did start eating this way, it's completely transformed the way that I think about the way my body should look and the way that I should eat. Like it's been such an eye opener.
And I can say my mom was really scared at first. She's like, "I'm so glad you're eating meat, but you need to have a little bit of fruit. You need to have vegetables." I'm like, "Mom, you don't understand. I know how this may look on the outside from people looking in. But we are raised on a farm, so we eat predominantly, my whole family are predominantly carnivores, but they do throw in a little bit of carbs here and there. They're not as hardcore as I am, I guess you could say. But now my mom's like, "I'm so proud to see you going to the bathroom and to see you filling out." And I was so malnourished because when I was on the vegan diet, I followed the cute little Kate Flowers girl, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna try raw and I'm gonna make all of my stuff." Like this time last year, I was 100% like a raw vegan.
Mm.
And I had been that way for about a year. I did like a whole year of just raw vegan, and I made all my own dressings, my cakes for my 31st birthday. I remember going to my parents and I'm like, "I made vegan cheesecakes, they're raw." And I was just so proud because that's what I was, that's all anybody knew me as, was
Yeah.
like the health nut vegan. And I just went a full 360 or 180. And so now looking back, I'm like, I can't believe, like, I just know my boundaries now. And I'm sure you can relate to that, where it's not so much as the food being good or bad, but it's so much as I know what works for me and what can fit within this boundary and what doesn't work for me. And I think that parameter looks different for everybody.
Yeah, totally. And I think especially for people that do have the digestive issues, like especially diseases that are like Crohn's or colitis, we find the most healing, I think, on a strict like carnivore diet. And people like approach us and like see our content and they think like, oh, this is so extreme, but they don't understand. Like, I'm sure you can relate. Personally, for me, if I even eat like the fiber and fruit, I get digestive pain still sometimes. So it's like, to a degree, I want people to understand, but at the same time, like I'm just doing what is best for my own body. And like with eating, like I don't eat like 100% strict carnivore because that would mean cutting out coffee and that would mean cutting out like all fruit, which I haven't done. But I'm not eating fruit on a daily basis. But personally, for me anyway, eating that way has gotten my digestive system back to like what I remember it being when it was like normal. So it's like so it's something that I would never give up just to like make people think that I eat like just to change people's perspective to think that I eat normally.
Right. And I do enjoy coffee as well. Like, I think everything can fit in a diet. I am not going to stand up here and say that the whole population needs to be a certain way. And I don't think that we all fit in one box. Um, I'm really big in biology. I'm a biology teacher. And so I study cells and I study like gene formation, gene expression, and mitochondrial function. And I think it's important that we take into account, like, when we ingest food, it becomes cellular information. So
Mm,
food, that's how I look at everything that I eat. How is this on my plate going to be transformed? And how is this going to become cellular information that's going to go right into the cells immediately, which is going to go right into the mitochondria, which is then going to be pushed out as ATP for energy. And
right.
we looked at our food, not so much as, oh, that's good or oh, that's bad, or just live a little. Like, I don't think about it disorderly. And I think when I was a vegan, I was obsessive. It was almost, and I never put the pieces together until today on my drive home. I was thinking, wow, you used to be so obsessed about food. It was like the switch never stopped. It was always firing.
Mm,
I would eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and then my brain would tell me something's missing. I need something else to eat. But I was so bloated and so sick, I couldn't stand up straight. I would be walking around holding my stomach. So it's like the bloating gave me a false sense of satiety, but my brain
totally.
was never receiving those signals from my gut, that leptin. It was never receiving the correct leptin and ghrelin, which are your hunger and satiety hormones, because the bloating almost gives you this sense of I'm full, I'm no more, when in all actuality, you're just filling the stomach with air.
Yes. Yeah, or like just fiber with like no real nutrients that it can digest. I could totally relate to that. I was always bloated and I felt like I would eat a lot, but then I clearly wasn't, my body knew I wasn't getting what I needed because I had cravings constantly. And I was always thinking about food. I was always watching like not even vegans that like focused on the health stuff, but just like recipe videos and stuff like that. I was always watching stuff like that. It was always on my mind.
Yes, I love to watch other people and what like the recipes that they would do. And I remember when we did like the welcome week back to work last August, and my principal and everybody, she was making eggs and bacon, and I'm like, I'm vegan, and so they went out and bought me like this tofu wrap, which was so gross. But I thought, look at me, just being the healthiest person, and it was almost, and this is me, I'll always be authentic and honest, but it's almost like in a sense of entitlement, like, well, I'm vegan and I'm healthy and I'm doing the right thing and everyone else isn't. You
Right.
know that people can grab a hold of that as well, even in the carnivore space. Like, well, I'm eating meat. Why aren't you? You need to be eating just like this. And I just don't feel that way. I think that as we get older, it takes sickness to develop wellness. And until you experience the gut pain that I've experienced and what it's like to be hunched over and feel like a knife is stabbing you throughout your intestines, to feel like your own body is attacking itself and you're on fire, to struggle and then to finally be able to go to the restroom and then be in so much pain after going to the restroom, it's like,
Yeah.
I can't believe my doctor would tell me that more fiber would make me better when it really made me worse. And it caused me to lose an extreme amount of weight because my body just couldn't hold on to the nutrients.
Yeah, that's so crazy and but it's so relatable for me because I've seen two ends of the spectrum where people a lot of ex-vegans will say, "Oh, my doctor was the one that woke me up." That was not the case for me. Even like I got into veganism like not long after having an eating disorder, so the eating disorder doctors when I was like 13 never told me there was an issue with me being vegan and they like worked with me, which I don't know, maybe that was them like just trying to get me to eat like whatever I would be okay with eating. I don't know. But then later on, when I was diagnosed with colitis and I was seeing doctors for that, they actually did tell me that meat and dairy would make colitis worse and that they cause colitis. So I was like, so then I must at least be like a step ahead. And that like totally made me even feel even more like veganism was right. But then on the other hand, I kept getting sicker. So it's so backwards. But it's because like doctors clearly aren't all on the same page with diet and nutrition. And I think people that actually get like good advice in terms of dealing with gut issues that are, the advice that's actually going to get them better, that's like really rare. And you get really lucky if your doctor does tell you that.
Right? And the few experiences that I've had in 2009, I was so sick. I was in college. I was just eating whatever. I went from being raised on a farm. We ate everything from our farm to whatever I could eat whenever I wanted to eat to learning to, transition into adulthood. Um, and I remember I stopped being able to use the restroom. So I could only use the restroom once a week. And then I started to have really severe, sharp pains. And I just remember that day I called my mom and I'm like, I can't stand up. Something's wrong, mom. And this goes back to when I was born. I was born a month early. And for 9 months, I clenched my legs up into my chest as a baby. I was a preemie and I screamed and cried, and my parents could not figure it out. They thought that something was found, like, fundamentally wrong with me. And the only time I would stop crying is when my dad took me for car rides. And then as soon as the car stopped, I would go back, I would bring my legs into my chest and scream. Well,
Wow.
9 months. My mom took me to every doctor in 1990 to figure out what is going on with my child. She won't stop screaming, like, my husband and I aren't going to make it.
Right.
um, Finally, my grandma told my mom to take me to the chiropractor. They took me to the chiropractor, and the doctor said, you need to get this girl off of milk. She has an incredibly sensitive tummy. You can look at the way that she's clenching her legs up into her chest. She's not gaining weight. And I was very little. Like, I was a little preemie, being born a month early. And
Oh.
they take breast milk. You need to get on a special formula. And from that day on, no problems.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mom's breast milk, I could not take any other milk. It had to be a specific formula, like some type of Enfamil that was rare back in the day. Now you can get all kinds of different modalities, but that right there laid the foundation. And so now when I talk about gut health, 32 years later with my family, they're like, you've always had a tender tummy since you were a baby.
Hmm. So you did say that even your mom's breast milk you were intolerant to? Wow,
Mhm.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Huh.
there is something genetically, and that's something that my sister and I are looking into, because we we have a lot of poop talks. Like, I am all about talking about poop because it's just a part of my tummy and my life, I guess. But genetically, they say when a chromosome is missing, or some type of digestive enzyme, or some type of bacteria, gut microbiome bacteria, if it is missing within the large intestine, oftentimes they can directly link that to anxiety, depression, and also autism. So I have a cousin that has Down syndrome, and he's 21, and he can only he eats very little carbs and mostly chicken. That's it. That's all his body can tolerate. And then there's Carter and Bella, which are my niece and nephew. Bella is 3, and she has a neurological disorder. She had, when she was a year old, her intestines wrapped around and constricted into a knot, and she
Oh,
blood for 2 days and was rushed to the hospital, and they cut out pieces of her intestines.
wow,
And
crazy.
she can only take soy formula. She takes no food, and she's 3 years old. And then there's Carter, who's autistic. He is 7. I've posted a couple videos recently about him. My sister put him on a strict carnivore diet, took out all of these sugars, and he's actually starting to talk.
Oh,
And
amazing.
I share all of that, elaborating because somewhere genetically in my family, there are mental health issues, but there's also something genetically where on the something that puts us on the spectrum somewhere where I think that our genetic makeup is missing, because it's through the bloodline. That's my sister's kids and then my aunt's kids. So somewhere I think there is some type of genetic something that is missing through our gut microbiome that a lot of other not populations, but um, cultures of family may have, that we are lacking.
Huh. That's so interesting. And overall, it seems like you guys have found that like a highly, for the most part, meat-based and low-carb diet helps a lot. Okay. That's crazy. I mean, that reminds me of, are you familiar with Natasha Campbell? Because I know she has like, she does the GAPS diet, and it's like similar to a carnivore diet, but it includes plant foods, and she has, I think, a whole protocol for children that are born with diseases like you mentioned, and I think some of them are just purely meat based. Yeah,
Yes.
so crazy, but at least you did discover this. Like, are you the reason that your sister's son is eating the carnivore diet?
I was the first one in the family to go full carnivore after being vegan. And then my mom went carnivore, ish. She's more keto, more ketovore, but she does lean heavy towards carnivore. We are on a farm, so we get all of our meat and eggs, everything. We just butchered a pig, and we have a cow going in a month. But she was recently diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And so she's been able to put that into remission by eating a carnivorous diet. She does like very little. She has irritable bowel as well. And so she's very peculiar about her vegetables, but she does enjoy a little bit of dairy and cream.
Okay.
And then my sister went full carnivore because she got tested and her antibodies were higher than my mom and I. And so the doctor told her she needed to be very careful with her thyroid because she could risk having Hashimoto's as well. So she went all in, and then she put Carter and Bella on it and went all in. Now Bella just takes that formula, but Bella takes no other sustenances.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Her tummy. So she just completely cleaned out their fridge, and it's very meat based.
Wow, that's awesome. So clearly, like, you guys are, like, for the most part, all like thriving, or you've put a lot of autoimmune disorders in remission from the way you're eating. That's so crazy. It's like crazy how veganism is painted to be like such a healthy diet, and then you end up with disorders like your family has. I mean, clearly, as you did go over, it sounds like there is something genetic there as well. But I'm sure there is, like, for me as well, like a genetic factor to the fact that I got ulcerative colitis. Like, I've had other family members that had it, but clearly the way you eat influences how the genes that cause the disorder express themselves.
Absolutely. And with the vegan diet, and I will say this to elaborate on what you shared earlier, a lot of girls that struggle with eating disorders will go vegan because it's such a low fat diet. And what we're told is fat makes you fat, right? So if I have no fat, because fat's bad, but I can have 100-calorie tofu, oh man, that's safe. That's real safe. So I'll just eat 3 of those and then I'll be good.
Yeah.
And I definitely fell prey to that too, where it's like, well, I know I'm healthy. I'm not going to blow up because I'm not eating fat. Like, I'm going to maintain my beautiful figure, whatever that means.
Right, right.
I've seen so much where many people go vegan and then their teeth decay, their skin is sunk under, they have black bags. If you go and look at a recent post of mine, this girl asked me if I had some type of cancer. My skin was so
Yeah.
from the soy, and I had no idea I was allergic to soy. I'm like, soy is so good for you because I mean, that's what I had to have when I was a baby. I didn't know I was allergic to that. I just know that I'm allergic to dairy. And
Right.
when I took the soy out, it was like all of that melasma that was all over my face. I had melasma all over my chin. I had it, you can see where just the dark spots, and then my under eye bags were just, it just wasn't a sign of health. But we are told that a vegan diet is good for us because it has that low saturated fat. It's a lot higher in fiber. Now, that diet could work for somebody, of course, but is it optimally going to feed your brain? Because I would rather eat 100 grams of saturated fat because I know how it makes my mind feel, and my gut needs that lubrication. Fat lubricates. It when you ingest it, it stimulates the gallbladder to send bile through the pancreas and the liver, and then that bile kind of covers and encompasses the fat, and then it like lubricates. Think about putting WD-40 on something, and then it's like just
Yeah.
ooh, you're able to have a soft bowel movement, and to me, that's everything.
Yeah, totally. I definitely experienced that myself. The higher fat that I eat, the more my digestion seems to be regular. And I mean, I was suffering with diarrhea, and really, like, for the most part lately it has healed, which is like so great. Like, I never thought that would happen, but I totally agree. And I've heard a lot of people that eat this way say that higher fat help them to get regular. So I totally agree with that.
Yes, and I will be the first to tell you that you do not need fiber. So, as I'm looking here in my office, I just want to show you something. So, I love to read and do research. Here's my book, Fiber Fueled, because I was the fiber queen. Yes. So, if anybody's looking for a new, your
Uh-oh.
book, and it talks about like the plant-based gut health program. I read this front to back, brought it to work with me, and then I bought a dehydrator and I got the plant powered athlete. Everything's raw in here. So you can get all of your raw salads. Yes, these can go to a home near you.
So wait, I thought when you first brought them up, did you buy them to like do research to see what it says, or you had them already, like from when you were vegan?
I bought this for myself last year when I went full, like I was fully raw. Um,
Okay.
I had read so many articles about this book, and it was supposed to be a really, really great book about, restoring your health, working with your microbiome. See that fancy word? And I'm all about studying and doing research on the microbiome. So I had to have the book. And
Yeah.
this was about, I do a lot of athletic training. I've run half marathons, I've done Iron Girls. And I'm like, well, if this is going to help me to optimize my training, and this book came out the same time, I believe, that Game Changers, I think it was Game Changers, when it showed everybody training and
Right.
how a plant-based diet helped them recover quicker and how they were able to go back and they had quicker recovery to go in and overturn muscle fatigue and go back into the arena and do what they needed to do. So, yeah.
Did the advice in those books help you like at all?
Mm, they just gave me snazzy recipes, but everything was about fiber. And I think the more fiber I ate, the sicker I got. Like, you don't understand. When I went to work, I carried an extra bag with 2 pairs of underwear. And this is full disclosure. Like, I was a teacher. So, as teachers, when I get to work, I better use the bathroom and fill up my water bottle and eat whatever I have because I
Yeah.
won't be able to break until 4 o'clock when I get off. And I would tell my principal and my team, whatever team they put me on, whether it was second, third, kindergarten, I tell my teammates, look, if I have to go to the bathroom and I'm doing this, I've got about 30 seconds or I will have to change my clothes. You don't understand. When I have to go to the bathroom, it'll come on me and I will have to be running down the hall.
Yeah.
And no worries. So when it happened, I would be running and I could barely make it to the bathroom to get myself sitting down to go before it was. And there were times when I had to change.
Yeah.
So for
I
my class,
I completely get it. That I luckily never had an accident like that where I had to change, but when I was in the hospital once, that happened. And I like when I was in the hospital, like when I got diagnosed with colitis. Um, and I can just totally relate to like having like 30 seconds or it's all over. Yeah, people that don't have digestive issues don't get it. It gets really urgent.
when you have to go, it's like I would start breaking out into a sweat first, and then this strong pain would come on, and I would be in the middle of teaching, and I would just freeze and be like, "Nobody move, nobody take a breath," and I'm like, "I've got to go right this second," or and I would be in so much pain. And then after, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I feel so much better." But I never left the house without extra pairs of underwear or a change of clothes because God forbid I couldn't, like, it just happened. I had no control over my bowels, and it's a sad thing to say, but it made me develop a lot of anxiety because I just didn't know. Like, I'd be walking through the grocery store with my sister and her kids, and I'd be like, Kristen, I got to go to the bathroom right now. I can't talk to you. And I would just have to run. Like, I'd be jogging to the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. So did you have, because I'm sure you had a lot of coworkers, did you ever have anybody say to you that the way you were eating was causing your digestive issues? That's that's good in the sense that it's like respectful because when I got diagnosed with colitis, when I was like at my sickest, I had to take off work. I quit my job at the time because I was waitressing. I was still in college and I was like not into going back to doing that after I got so sick. So after I did quit my job, a friend of mine that I worked with at the time came to me like a few weeks later and she was like, everybody's saying that you got sick like that because you're vegan. And it made me angry and it made me like it made me feel like they just don't get it, like they just don't understand my diet. But then, lo and behold, they were kind of right, because when I stopped being vegan, within like a month, like those really severe symptoms healed.
Right. Well, no one ever said anything to me. They always came to me for advice because I've always loved health and nutrition. And so no one ever thought anything of it. I came home freshman year, went to the doctor in 2009, and the woman pushed on my stomach and I almost threw up. That's how tender it was. And she's like, let's eat all fiber. You come back in a little bit and see me. And I was like, okay. So I
Oh,
went through those 3 years. I was fully vegan, and everybody always thought, that's just Kim. She's the watermelon queen. She can eat all this fruit and all these veggies. And my best friend knew, like, there was always broccoli on my plate. I was every morning like clockwork. I had my protein shake with fiber in it. I had psyllium husk, whatever I could find. And I did that for years. And then 2017, I went through a divorce, and it really took a big toll on my body and my mental health. And it was a very abusive, physically, sexually, so many other facets. It's another conversation. But dealing with that type of trauma on my body, I had leaky gut.
mm,
So my doctor put me on like a gut healing protocol, but I didn't stop being vegan.
right. Yeah, I can relate. And I'm sure the stress from that aggravated your digestive issues that much more, because I mean, I totally just know from my own experience.
Yeah, I was so stressed, and the trauma. And this is something that I share a lot on my page as well, is addressing mental health. And so I saw a therapist for 4 years, and the trauma that was in my body and just moving through my nervous system. I didn't have good sleep. When I would eat, everything came back out whole, and I lost a lot of weight. I was very skinny. I looked very ill, very unhealthy. And I didn't have a desire to eat. It was almost like my body image, my eating, there was just no desire for anything. I was depressed, I was anxious, I was sad. And because my gut was so inflamed, it was exasperated with that. When you're in fight or flight, what happens to your gut? It's in fight or flight with you. It's not pushing up hormones to the brain, and it's not stimulating digestion. And so everything was just coming out whole. Um, and
Wow.
I worked through the mental health and the trauma, and I got back into my body. I think now this past almost 10 months, I've been able to focus on my diet more because I went back and I healed the body. You can't have a healthy diet if you have all of this trauma over here, and you have all of this fight or flight, and you have all of these triggers and cortisol and everything. Of course, that's going to exasperate your gut issues. But I highly
Yeah.
recommend, like, yes, we should always address diet, but sometimes you got to get to the root, and you got to get to all of that, so that way you can just focus on the diet. Because right now, I don't have to look at my body and say, okay, baby, like, why are you in fight or flight? What's going on? What's the matter? Why is your cortisol so high? And I talk to myself all the time. I have a very deeply loving relationship with my body because I did that work on myself. And
Right.
yeah.
Um, it's really interesting you bring that up, because I totally agree. And I can totally see from my own life how much just being able to manage stress better has helped my colitis. But then on the other hand, changing my diet too, I think did a lot of the work as well, in terms of like healing my colon and like regulating my cortisol. Because I've had people like comment on my videos and stuff saying that, basically completely disregarding the experience I had with changing my diet. And they've said, like, you just have to heal trauma. Like, that's all you had to do, and your colitis would have healed. Like, you're spreading misinformation. And I feel like it's like in between. It's not necessarily, obviously you shouldn't be in a fight or flight state all the time, and that will lead to health issues. But then for me personally, if I hadn't changed my diet, my body never would have gotten to that like next level of healing where I wasn't experiencing flare-ups, like even if they were minor, on like a monthly basis. If I had, like, it was really the introduction of animal nutrients that allowed my body to heal. And it, like, it also reduced my stress because it, clearly, like, I was getting more nutrition that I was getting essential nutrition that I wasn't getting before.
Right. And I think I was so malnourished that the first time that I decided to go all in on the carnivore diet, I bought a big old pack of fatty chuck steak and I chopped it up from Whole Foods and cooked it. And for the first time, it was like this energy just came over me and I felt like I was myself and I hadn't been that girl in so long. And even when I was married, my husband at the time, he would make me, I would be in grad school, I was studying clinical mental health counseling, and when I would come home, he would have a big pot of vegetables steaming for me. And as I look back, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I spent those 4 years putting in the mental health work on myself and dealing with those parts of Kim that needed to heal, because now, like I said, I can focus on the nutritional side. And even today, like to this date, I still have a tender tummy, a very tender tummy. And there's like a threshold where my brain and my gut are constantly communicating. And I've done research on myself every single day. I like to document and research like what's happening. That way, if something does happen, I can give this information, this study of my own body to my doctor.
Mm.
Um, but there are every single day, I'm like, I felt really good eating a lot of fat today, but there's like a threshold where there has to be, there's a perfect ratio of fat to protein when I'm eating meat that my brain and my gut need. So my brain needs a certain, if I get too much fat, my gut's unhappy. And if I don't get enough fat, my brain's unhappy. So I constantly have to be working with my brain and my gut. It's really cool and I love it. And I will say, to the stress, if I don't get a good night's sleep, which I have a bedtime, when the sets, all the lights go off in my house, the internet goes off. I turn my red lights on, I put my blue light black glasses on. I'll
Oh,
sit on a, or I'll just sit in dark and listen to like binaural beats, brainwave beats. Um, but if I have a stressful day at work, or I don't get enough sleep, or I over caffeinated, or my gut's a little inflamed, there are days when I'll like take a pillow and I have to have that pressure on my tummy, and I'll sleep in the fetal position just to bring that that sense of comfort to my gut. But my gut responds immediately to external things.
wow. So, but you are eating like how close to a carnivore diet are you eating? Because it sounds like you're pretty strict, right?
Yeah, I eat right now, I'm just eating meat and eggs, butter, and I like coffee, but I'm not eating any plant material right now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, same. But at the same time, like, I mean, I know for myself too, I don't really ever get digestive pain anymore unless I do have a tiny bit of fiber if I like have fruit, but that's like really almost never these days. But I totally think that it takes probably years, honestly, to really like fully heal from like the damage that like the level that we were both on when we were vegan.
Yeah, and I'm still healing. Last week, I woke up and I felt tired, and I'm like, okay, let's go for just a gentle walk. Walking is foundational for me. I walk every day, and that really helps my gut. I get, and I'm not even eating fiber, but I get really sharp gas pains in my tummy, and it just feels like a stab, and I have to lay down on my tummy. Um, there are times like the other day when I went to the bathroom afterwards, like my rectum, I just was in pain. Like it takes, even though I'm on a carnivore diet, like I still get, and it's nowhere near what it was, but there are times when like I'll go and afterwards I'm just like, I have to just sit in the fetal position. I'm like, that really hurt for me to go to the bathroom. Like, yay, I went. It was a great movement, but it hurt afterwards. And that's what I said in the beginning. Like it does take a lot of work for my gut. My gut works really hard for me. And
Mm,
I'd be lying if I told you, well, carnivore healed it and I'm completely healed. Um, but I know I'm not where I was. My
right.
readily being absorbed. I'm not having chunks of my food and my vegetables and runs. I'm having solid movements, but it's a lot of work on my tummy to go.
Right, right. And I'm sure that's because it's like in the process of healing. Could you talk a little bit about like when you like what initially like made you want to stop being vegan?
When COVID happened, I was locked down in my classroom. My stress was high. I was working through my master's, and my mom was like, "Kim, you live alone. Like, this is a really hard time for everybody." And like, I think you need to get on SSRIs. I think you have a little bit of anxiety, which I wouldn't be lying. I do have some anxiety. Yes. In a perfect world, that wouldn't exist, but we're all human. So she's like, I really think you should go to the doctor and get on SSRIs. And I'm like, I just refused. I'm like, no, my body's smart enough. I eat a healthy diet. I go for walks. I'm in nature. Like, no, I don't agree with this. But I cried and I'm like, Kim, let's do this. Let's show ourselves that we're strong. So I went into the doctor and he was like, well, you're vegan, your blood work, everything looks great, and like you're working out and you're a yoga teacher, and like I'm so proud of you. Like, let's get you on anxiety medication. And I have the paper. He prescribed to me on SSRIs, the 10 milligrams, and gave me a diagnosis for generalized anxiety disorder. And I left and cried and went right to Publix and bought the medication. I took it for a month. It's still in my cabinet right now. Um, but it actually worked with my gut really well. My
Okay.
inflammation went down. That was the one thing that I told my mom that I was appreciative of. I said, the only thing that I've enjoyed out of these SSRIs is that my gut feels a little bit of relief. And I don't know if it's calming the firing of neurons that are happening in my gut microbiome with my brain, but I went off it, never got back on it. And then last fall, it was like my mental health progressively got worse. I was
Hmm.
7. Um, I looked emaciated. I looked anorexic. I looked very unhealthy. I didn't think I looked sick because I had body dysmorphic. I didn't see anything. I thought I'm eating a healthy diet. I'm eating enough calories. Like I'm perfectly fine. Um, but I was crying every day. I was really sad. I hated my job. I wasn't kind. And I'm such a loving person. Like, I'll give you the shirt off my back. But I felt like this sense of grayness just came over me. And I just it was like a cloud was over me.
Hmm.
And I remember scrolling through TikTok and I saw Kelly Hogan. And I'm
Okay.
just meet. And I started thinking, well, Kim, you've obviously this isn't working for you. Like you're getting sick, you're getting thinner, like you're pooping your food out whole. Like we've got to do something. And I was so sick. I was calling into work because I was too exhausted. I was so bloated and my stomach just hurt. I just wanted to lay in bed and close my eyes. Okay, for like hello.
There's
Um,
thunder.
and I just had no personality and I was really depressed. And I decided I was going to wake up the next day and go all in. And I was so scared. I'm like, I can't go a day without my fiber. You don't understand. Like, I've got to have my fiber. And what am I going to do without broccoli and cauliflower? Like, I eat these all day, every day.
Right, right.
And I went all in and I just saw my personality. And now, like today, almost 10 months later, I'm like, I'm the Kim that I was before I got married. I'm the girl that I loved.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
the
Amazing.
precious girl that wakes up every day and is like, what are we going to do today? What are we going to play with? Like, I'm 32 and I think like a child. And to see my personality come back, to see the color in my skin, to wake up and not look 6 months pregnant, I don't care what any doctor tells me. I'm not going to stop eating meat.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. That's so amazing. I can also relate to it's almost like somebody commented this on a picture of me, and it just it hit home, like they were right. They said like it looks like your soul came back into your body. And I can totally relate to that. Because yeah, I felt for so long as a vegan like I just wasn't myself anymore, and like I needed to like do these specific things to get back to like being the person that I remembered being at some, like imaginary time in the past that was probably just my mind being a little warped. And finally, like when I did change my diet and I reintroduced meat again, I don't even think about like not feeling like myself. I just like I'm like grounded, and I'm focused, and it's just it's such a night and day thing compared to the way I felt as a vegan. It's like I almost did feel like I was like not like fully present in my body.
I don't like how my brain feels when I don't eat enough meat, like enough protein or enough fat. I don't like it. And I don't care. If that means like I've got to be 30 pounds heavier and I've got to have nice boobs and a butt, I don't care about that. I don't care about the weight because
Yeah.
I know how I felt, and I will live by this until the Lord takes me home. But I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental health and my gut health for any type of food. I'm just not. If
Yeah.
I want to eat 2,000 calories for breakfast, we're going to do it with a smile and some ghetto rap music playing, and we're just going to bounce it out and have a good time and then move on, because that's the beauty of having that type of freedom. Is like when I sit down to eat, it's like, all right, babe, you got your fork or your fingers. Like, we're going to eat with our hands today, or we're going to chop the steak up, or we're going to eat to satiety, and then we're going to go out into the world and make a difference. And then
Yeah.
when we get hungry, we'll come back and think about food. But when I was a vegan, it was like, okay, I would eat and then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm in pain. I'm starving. When's the next meal? Like, I would be hangry, upset. Like, come on. Like, I just had no patience. I had no ability to just be present in the world. And now I feel like I can be present. I can go a couple of hours without having to run to the restroom, or I could go the whole day. When I wake up every morning, I have a normal bowel movement. I'll have a great breakfast. And then I go out into the world and I make a difference. And then when I get hungry, I nourish myself so I can keep my personality.
Yeah.
Have to eat a certain way to maintain my brain health, my gut health, and my personality, who I am at my core.
Yeah, I totally relate to that too. It's so freeing, and it clearly does something. It's beyond like just it takes away anxiety, and it gives you like ease in a very like intuitive, intrinsic way. Like like you don't have to think about it. You don't have to do these like specific routine to not have anxiety. You just don't have it anymore. And even with cravings, it's not that like I'm telling myself to stop thinking about food. I just genuinely like I can eat a meal and I genuinely don't think about food until later in the day when I get hungry. And that, especially when I was vegan, there was no such thing. I was like I like you just described. I was constantly like I would eat a meal and then I would feel hungry again, or I just feel super bloated or be in pain, and then I'd be thinking about what I was going to eat next. There was like no ease at all with that way of eating.
I think that it really messed up my ability to, it messed up my ghrelin and leptin hormone cues. I didn't understand when I was hungry and when I was full. And ghrelin and leptin are those hunger satiety hormones that are made in the gut. They communicate back and forth. Your gut sends 9 signals, and your brain usually sends back down 1 or 2. So when you think about all of these neurons, everything that signals up to the brain, right? It's about 9 different cueings at once. Whereas the brain will communicate back once or 1 or 2 cues. And so I never really had that threshold of satiety, even if I ate a big bowl of salad. And now the thought of eating salad, I'm like, I can't.
Yeah. it
Uh,
I can't lie, honestly. I did really enjoy salad when I was vegan. But it was really only if like there was a really good dressing on it, or if I put like mock meats in it and like really like spruced it up with other stuff that tasted good. Because yeah, like now the idea of eating lettuce is, it really just feels like disgusting.
My favorite thing though, like I haven't had them in 9 months. I loved broccoli and cauliflower. I would make all kinds of recipes and I really enjoyed making different things, but now that I feel better, I just have that desire's gone. Like when I walk into the store, if I'm buying meat, like I don't care. I'll buy meat from anywhere. Like if I'm not getting it from our farm or I'm not getting it local, I'll go right into Publix or Walmart, go and get some grass-fed beef or whatever they have, and I walk right past it. And it just I don't think about it anymore because I know what's important to me and what keeps me feeling my best. And I think one of the things that makes me so sad about the carnivore space though is just I think that they put too much emphasis in fasting and eating only grass-fed meat or eating only a certain way. And carnivore is not a club. Let me
Yeah.
I'll fill with you. If you're looking into the carnivore space, like, and you need support, I'll be your friend. But I'm not here to judge you. I don't focus on fasting. I don't focus on calories. And like, I like to post what I eat, but at the same time, it's really nobody's business what I eat because my body's different than everybody else's body. And I don't want you to compare yourself to me. I want you to go out and I want you to do an N=1 study on your body. I want you to
Yeah.
your body's cueings and learn to know who you are. You are the only person you can't get away from. Rather than abandoning yourself or carrying out, like, I don't care what diet you have, if you have an eating disorder or if you have body dysmorphic disorder, that doesn't go away because you become a carnivore or because you become a vegan. You can exasperate it no matter what diet you have. And I say this with all love and complete conviction in my heart. Like, don't be afraid to eat calories and don't worry about fasting. If you're trying to heal, fasting should not be in your window. If you're
Yeah.
under, fasting should not be in your window. If you are on a budget, hello, I'm a teacher. Eating grass-fed should be the least of your worries. Go out and buy some eggs and a pound of whatever beef you can get, and you sit down, girlfriend, and you eat. And you be proud of yourself because your mental health and your overall health is more important than what everybody is screaming and saying behind a screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had people ask me how I feel about fasting, and it's like personally I'm not interested in it. And I don't know, I feel like there's so many, with people first approaching this diet too, like to throw fasting in there right away, it makes it a little bit confusing. I don't know, because personally for me, I have no interest in fasting because while I didn't have horrible hormone issues as a vegan, I feel like that would just be almost asking to develop hormonal issues. Um, so yeah, the fasting I completely agree with you with, and the grass fed too. Like I always tell people, if you can afford it, then with flying colors, like buy grass fed only, but it's not necessary. Like I always go back to just cut out processed foods, especially oils and refined sugars. Like you want to focus on things like that over everything. If you're buying meat, just buy unprocessed meat. Like don't focus on like having to buy grass fed. It's like it's great, but it's not necessary. And it can get expensive. I don't only buy grass fed meat or pasture raised eggs. I just do it when I can.
Right. And there was a recent study that was conducted, I believe it's University of Southern California, USC, I believe, in their microbiology program. Um, and they were showing that it was research conducted on a select group of people that are only eating grass-fed meats and they are depleted in omega-6. You need both. So let me be the first to just bust the cap. You absolutely need a balance between omega-3s, which are vital, and omega-6s. So
Mm.
you can be eating a little bit of grass-fed and then you can have a little bit of that meat at Walmart that's on sale for $10 that meets your budget
Well,
because you
um,
have just omega-3s.
chicken also is higher in omega sixes than like beef, right?
Yeah, chicken and pork are going to have more of your histamine sensitivities. It's going to be a little bit higher in the omega-6 profile, even if it's grass-fed. we can understand this because we're vegan. They do a lot of greenwashing, even in the meat space. Greenwashing happens not just with, oh, it's soy free, or oh my gosh, there's no cholesterol and it's fat free. That's great, but greenwashing happens with meat as well. They'll strap a little farm on it and a happy egg and say that it's this and sell it to you for $5 more. So I think you just need to do what works for your body, but have a balance. I feel great on grass-fed meat. I buy it every other day. But I also went to Walmart today and I needed toothpaste. So I bought myself some toothpaste and I bought myself sirloin tips that are not grass-fed because it's the
Yep. Is your connection okay? I think it cut out for a second.
Yeah,
I think
it's storming really bad. I'm sorry.
I think it's no, that's okay. That's okay. I did want to ask, so when you did, because I keep like going, like, you know, trying to go back to like the focus of the live because I don't want to just completely not talk. We are talking about it, but like I wanted to ask, so when you did go carnivore overnight, like how did your gut issues improve? Like what was the timeline if you could like talk about that a little bit?
I went probably within the first month, I went from having like chunks of food because I took out all the fiber. That first month, from like November to December, my mental health improved. I stopped having diarrhea. I stopped having like chunks. Like all of the food I was ingesting was coming back out as chunks. That went away. And then, but I wasn't eating high fat. So when I first started carnivore, I eased into it by having more chicken, and I was doing pork tenderloin, sirloin roasts. I was a little bit afraid of fat.
Yeah, totally. Same.
Like, I can't do 280 calories of ribeye. That's a lot, but I can do I can do a chicken breast right now. And I had to take baby steps, because I was afraid of fat for sure. I wasn't afraid of protein, but the first month I went from runny to solid to, okay, now that we've made the transition, and now it's time to start adding in more fats. And I progressively added in fats over from about January this year, because that was almost about 2 months in. So January this year and February, I added a little bit of fats, and I put on about 5 pounds, and I started to feel a little bit better, but my hunger was getting bigger. Like, I started to develop a higher capacity to eat. And so March, April, May, I ate probably 4,000 calories. Like, I was eating almost 4 pounds of meat, the fattiest meat I could get. Like, I would buy these big, like, chuck eyes. I would buy chuck roast, and I would eat all the fat raw. And then I would fry the fat. I would eat butter, like, just eat it raw. Every morning I did a scoop of raw butter, and then I put a scoop of raw butter in my coffee. And I went complete, like, no cap of fat. But I had to work myself up to it and allow that slow transition. When I first went carnivore, it was very high protein, lower fat. And then I started to increase my fat slowly. And then the past 4 months, it was just complete full fat up to this day.
Now, to this day, because it sounds like most recently you said you've kind of been figuring out the balance between protein and fat that like you feel you're best on, right?
Yes, and my eyes, my eyes lead the way for me. So when I go and look at meat, my eyes immediately are like, there's not enough fat on that. I'm not buying that. Like, the first thing that makes me pick up a pack of meat is the fat that I can see, the marbling. And I'm like, that looks great. We got to have that. That's what I want. And that's what I crave. And then even when I'm eating, like, I'm so connected to the sensory, and maybe that's somewhere on the spectrum I fall with autism. I don't know. But I'm very connected to sensory through my eyes, through the texture, through the taste. When I'm eating meat, my brain, through my chewing, can tell whether or not there's enough fat. Like, oh, that was too lean. There's no fat in it. There's nothing to it. I need more food. And my brain will not be satisfied until I hit that threshold.
Right. Um, I can relate to that too. I mean, now when I am buying beef, especially if I see like a really lean cut, I won't really like gravitate towards it. And I mean, it's not a really like technical thing for me. It sounds like it might be a little bit for you, like in the way you're thinking about it. But I mean, when I do eat now, I am a lot more intuitive in the sense that like I know if I've eaten enough, and I can eat like a reasonable amount and be like fully satisfied, where that was again like an unheard of thing when I was vegan.
Right. And I'm very big on texture. Um, and I always thought that I felt on the spectrum. Even when I was a vegan, I had to have my carrots because that crunch, I could never do slimy salads. Like I don't care what was on it. If the salad was slimy, I'm like, I can't eat it. The texture, I would give me anxiety. Like I had to have a crisp salad. My fruit had to be very hard. It does sound a lot like sensory, but I could not do soft grapes, soft fruit. Ooh, I just everything had to be a certain texture to eat it. Um, so even now with like the fat and stuff, like I like my eggs runny. I like to taste the runniness of an egg. I like my meat to have like crispiness to it, but then there's days when I want it to be very tender and soft and rare. Um,
Mm.
and I'm not biased. Like I have to have raw beef fat. I love raw beef fat. But then I also like the taste of it when it's cooked and it's really soft and warm. And then my gut, like your gut gets a lot of benefit that L-butyrate that we get from short chain fatty acids is very good. It kind of just coats and soothes the gut lining to help you have a good bowel movement.
And that's in butter, right? Like there's a lot of that in butter. I thought so. Okay. It's so wild. It really is. Like I was just so closed off to this whole world of nutrition that could have like improved my health, but I just wouldn't allow myself to even consider it for like 12 years.
Yeah, well, I think we like we like to follow the crowd. And we also like to go against the crowd because that draws attention to us. And we'd be lying if we didn't say we weren't fueled by our ego. We're all fragmented in some way, and we all want to be seen, heard, and validated by a community. Um, and it wasn't just carnivore, though, that helped. I will tell you, I eat all of the organs, but I take them in capsules too. I started taking a probiotic. I don't take it every day because some days it does cause a little bit of gas and intestinal discomfort, but then other days I take it and I'm like, whoa, I feel pretty good. Um, I do a detox tea every day. This is not a detox tea for weight loss. This is to help with your liver and your kidney function. So it's a blend of milk thistle, of dandelion, and of marshmallow root. So these are all like marshmallow root, slippery elm bark. These are different herbs that really soothe the gut. And I have that every night before bed because sometimes I do wake up. Like last night, I knew that I was I knew that I was going to wake up and have a hard bowel movement. Last night when I laid down, I go to bed with my jug of water and my hot tea. And I had a little bit of, I could feel pain towards my lower left quadrant of my intestine. My body was preparing to have a bowel movement. And I had one this morning, and then wasn't as painful, but it was work for me to go. Like, I feel like I have to really work to go. So I share that because I do enjoy like those herbs and I do enjoy tea. And there are some supplements that will help. Um, Everybody's different, but I do find that some of the supplements I take really do help me. And then magnesium complex, that really helps me a lot.
What was the brand that you did mention? I wrote it down, but I have to like find where I wrote it down because I did want to try magnesium, but it's a specific kind of magnesium, right? That helps with the gut.
It's a seven forms of it. It's got all seven, um, magnesium glycinate, chelate, citrate, biglycinate. There's a lot of research on each one, but I think it was called Optimal Nutrition.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to try that and then I forgot.
There's another one called Bio Optimizers that Amazon sells too. And they're a little pricey, but you want to get the full complex. So it helps with nerve function, neuron firing, mitochondrial health, cell turnover. And then it also helps with gut health, gut permeability, um, and then something else with your mental health as well. And that really helps me.
Awesome. Yeah, I did. I wanted to try that also. And I will say I did put my food one day into Chronometer just to see how I lined up with every nutrient. And most nutrients I was in a good range, but it was like magnesium and I can't even remember a few other things. Nothing, it wasn't like I was all deficient. Like it was mostly good, but magnesium was one of the things that I was a little deficient in. But that was what I was looking into too. Like I don't necessarily know what carnivore food is high in magnesium. So I did want to just try a supplement to see how it would go. But now I know those brands.
Magnesium, you're going to get a lot of that from avocados, fishes, your fattier fishes like sardines.
Oh,
Um,
I like supplements.
I've been doing research on calcium and vitamin D3 and the conversion process that happens. Your body converts D3 through sunlight and the UV rays or through your diet. It converts it in three different ways in order for it to be optimized throughout the body and to be used as energy. But yeah, that's another time. But I do a lot of research on stuff because I just want to know. But I'll look more into magnesium and see. But I know that you can get a lot of it from dark chocolate, avocados. I do supplement just because I think that with my body, I know that that's like I've got to have it.
Avocados, honestly, are something that I did want to try again just to see if it would hurt my gut. I think I am at a place now where I probably could tolerate it, but it's like just getting myself to that point where I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to try it, but I honestly think I will soon. But I might just try the supplements in the meantime to see how it goes. Um, I did want to ask you, like, because I want to wrap this up. I know it's been a little bit, but you started a tallow-based skincare, or are you just like making it as like a hobby? I wanted to just ask you about that.
Um, well, I have very sensitive skin. I'm very sensitive to smells. And a lot of scents make my skin break out. They make my nose run. They make my eyes water. Like I can't wear a lot of makeup because it just really affects all of my sinuses here. Um, and so I connected with my local butcher and I was like, hey, can I buy some beef fat off of you? And I rendered it down and I actually just on a whim made a moisturizer and I loved it. So I started diving into the research. And the more and more research I did, the more that I studied ancestrally how they used to take raw beef fat and rub it on their face. I'm like, well, if I eat the raw beef fat, am I getting the same nutrients? And there was all of this literature. I mean, it's all over PubMed, and I love research. So I'm like, we're going to do this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start a business and I just want to love people. I want to love a community. And so I made a moisturizer and then I made a sugar scrub. And there's actually health benefits of using sugar on your skin, sugar and honey. So I do not eat honey. Um, I don't find the need for it, but I completely accept you if you do. Um, but there are research and studies that show putting sugar on the skin actually gets past the epidermis and it's able to get deeper into the skin. And there's enzymes in sugar and honey, specific enzymes that help repair cell turnover and cell damage in the skin.
Oh,
And well, when I do all these vegan skincare products, my face was completely full of melasma.
yeah. I I have sensitive skin too, so I can relate to that. The only thing I've found so far, I've been wanting to get into like trying tallow-based skincare because the only thing I've found that doesn't make my skin irritated is like just tallow. That's the only thing I could put on my face. I could buy the most expensive like hypoallergenic skincare product, but if it's not just uh tallow based with very minimal and sensitive ingredients, it'll completely ruin my skin.
Well, also a lot of those plant extracts, I don't know what it is about it, but I was doing all of like the vegan plant extracts. I was buying all of the stuff you can get in the different stores. It's like Eministicks or something. I just threw it away actually. But they're made with plant oils.
Mm,
So the Carnivore MD, Paul Saladino, talked a lot about how putting plant oils in the vegetables, right? Just because you're not ingesting them does not mean that they're not going into your skin is an organ, it's your immune system. I listened to a documentary on this yesterday, how your skin is directly connected to your immune system. What you put on your skin directly impacts the firing of the neurons in the immune system and the way that they respond to stress, inflammation, and the way that they function throughout the entire body. Your skin is your most largest vital organ.
yes.
I
Yeah.
don't put anything on my skin. I don't have any makeup on. I put my tallow, I'll do my tallow moisturizer. I'll do a little bit of tallow cream. I'll wash my face with a little bit of tallow and sugar, and that's it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, most recently I like wearing makeup every once in a while, but I'm finding that it's just not worth it anymore because the same thing happens to me when especially like there are certain products that just they give me like brain fog, they give me like sinus issues, they give me headaches too. I feel like mascara for whatever reason gives me headaches whenever I wear it. So like I'm at the point too where it has to be like a really like crazy event or whatever for me to think that it's worth putting on makeup because it's just not worth it for me like most of the time.
Yeah, same here. I used to do pageants and I was a runway model. So I used to wear all of the MAC makeup. I would have like inch thick makeup on my face. I was a beauty pageant queen. I loved makeup and I just thought it made me beautiful. And I made it a goal to heal my skin when I went carnivore. And I stopped wearing makeup 3 months ago to show myself that I can be beautiful and show up in the world without having that on. And even when I would wear makeup, my sister would do my makeup for me. We used to be neighbors. And she's like, I can't do your makeup, Kim. Your eyes are watering. I'm like, Kristen, the fragrances in the makeup are making my eyes and my nose run, and I can't wear the makeup. And my eyes would literally swell to the point where I looked like I had little Chinese eyes and they were just pouring with water. The makeup would run off of my face.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't wear any perfume. I don't wear deodorant. I don't have an odor smell. I'm not eating the things that produce an odor. I don't put any toxic. I pretty much bathe. I like to bathe in water. I'm a lot like the Paul Saladino. He's like, what the heck? I don't put that crap on my skin. I don't need to. And I live very minimalistically because I don't feel the need to put those chemicals on my body because I'm so sensitive to what goes on my body and in my body. And I'm not, my mom used to light candles in the house. And every time I came over, I would get dizzy. And I'm like, Mom, you got to put that freaking like Bath and Body Works crap out because it's making me sick. It's making the room spin. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
then
I was just gonna say we light incense at my job and sometimes it's so bad. Like I'm so sensitive to it that it makes me nauseous. And you probably can relate to this too, but I feel like since I really simplified my diet, I'm getting more sensitive to
yeah,
those.
that's what I was just gonna say. I was like, I've never been this sensitive. Now my Meemaw, she sees an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. But when I would go to her house, I would always bring fruit. And she would get so sick off of my fruit, the smell of watermelon and cantaloupe. She would start throwing up. She would have to go into a different room and make me take the fruit outside. And now I'm like, Nemo, I don't do any candles. I can't wear perfume. Like, I will be sick. The room will start spinning. And she's like, you're just like me. And I think as we get older, we become more sensitive to the toxins that the world says is okay.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And the funny thing is when I was vegan, I felt like I wanted to care about that stuff and I wanted to like take the toxins out of my environment. but I never really put too much effort into it. But now I'm almost motivated because, well, one, I know it's better for me, but also because my body is kind of giving me no choice.
Yeah. Your body is so smart, and it's constantly working. And I think we get so caught up in like, well, calories in, calories out, and how much I work in and how much I don't work out, and all of these little things that we think our body thinks about. It's like, dude, you take in less energy, your body will push out less energy. Your mitochondrial, your cell metabolism will go to the toilet, and your cells will develop apoptosis and die. Yeah. So, like, the more sensitive we become, the healthier we are, because the fragrances, the chemicals, yes, in your vegetables, they are sprayed with glyphosate. Just so you know, there's animals that are harmed in a vegan diet.
Yeah.
Um, and there's so many more chemicals in a vegan diet that you're ingesting that your cells receive as toxins. So when you ingest it, like I said, we go back to that cell, all of those toxins get shuttled right in and go straight to the nucleus of your cell. They go right to that mitochondria. The mitochondria has to push it back out through the cells, and then put, or throughout the cell, and then push it out as energy. Those toxins have to circulate through your bloodstream. They have to hit the liver, they have to hit the kidneys, they have to hit every organ
Right. Right.
blood before they're released, which is why a lot of people that get diagnosed with autoimmune, what happens? They have to get put on lymphatic drainage, right? They have to going into saunas, because you want to speed up the process of getting that cellular turnover out of the body. You want to be able to push those toxins out quicker. And even with a carnivore diet, because we're more sensitive, I do believe, and I could be wrong, but I do believe that when we do ingest toxins, whether that be a plant toxin, or some type of environmental toxins, or even our 5G phones, our bodies are able to almost repair a little bit quicker and have better cellular turnover, because we aren't battling such toxic overload with our diet.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you think,
There's roots to that.
yeah, like the standard American diet, they're battling, like what they're up against is 5 times worse than us, right? They have environmental toxins, they have their own stress, pollution, they have high cortisol, they have insulin resistance, right? But then they have the standard American diet. The body has to prioritize what toxins come first. And because, think about it, I ingest the standard American diet, right? So my body is toxic overload, sugar overload, kidney and liver overload. But then I have high cortisol, so my hormones are shot. I'm not able to understand my hunger and satiety, but my body is so focused on fight or flight, you don't always feel fight or flight in your body.
Right.
Your
Right.
body is always at a state of movement and stress, because it's either breaking down or building things and repairing.
Yeah. And I think too, like what you, going back to what you said about the vegetables, a realization I've had since I did start eating this way is that, yeah, while if you don't buy grass-fed meat, I obviously don't agree with the hormones that like are like given to the animals and whatever else, but the animals do have their own filtration systems in their body. So at least when you do eat meat, even if it's not grass fed, like a lot of those, like you're not eating like pesticides at least. And you're not, I think that I did see a study saying that glyphosate has been found in meat, but I'm sure compared to vegetables, there's like, I'm sure no comparison with the amounts. Like it's obviously much less in meat.
And I could be wrong with this. I was talking to a farmer last night while I was buying. I was actually getting beef fat from my local butcher, and there was another farmer there. He owns a big ranch about 10 miles down the road, and he's like, they tell you that they use antibiotics on animals and all this stuff. I'm like, he goes, I wouldn't even be worried about that. I don't even think they use antibiotics. And Thomas DeLauer, he's a big keto guy. He was doing a study on how they put that it's antibiotic free, and he goes, they don't put antibiotics in chickens, they just pump them full of food.
Right.
See the difference? I wouldn't be worried about the antibiotics and be worried about what kind of chemicals they put in the meat as much as what they feed the animals. They do a lot of animals that are, even you could have a cow out in your pasture right now and you could do grass fed all the way up. take it and sell it to someone that's going to take it to a slaughterhouse, right? You sell it to them, they're going to pump it full of grains, but they can still say grass-fed. That cow lived its whole life grass-fed, and then it was fed grains. Now they're ruminants. They have 4 stomachs. So they probably could break down the glyphosate and the other chemicals way more efficiently than a one-stomached animal could.
Right, right.
They still find traces of it versus the vegetables that you get. First of all, they're crossbred, they're hybrid, they don't even have the same palatable taste as they had 50 years ago or 100 and 200 years ago, as wild, fruits and vegetables would have tasted. And second of all, they're so heavily sprayed.
Yeah.
I mean, just to eat a strawberry, they have to wear like hazmat suits.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, even like as I've said a few times already in this interview, I don't eat that much fruit, but when I do get fruit now, I buy something that has I'll buy either watermelon, citrus, something that has an outside layer. So at least it's not, what I'm going to eat is not directly being sprayed with anything. But yeah, it's scary. That
I do wonder though with like the seeds. Like I used to love watermelon, but I noticed over the years the watermelon had gotten sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And I know Nutrition with Judy had made a recent podcast about fruits, and she goes, they've made the fruits sweeter now. They're almost, and when I was a vegan, I had to have a 9 before the digits. I don't know if anybody else is that way, but if you're eating organic, it has to have a 9 in front of it. So that's how you know that a vegetable is organic and not sprayed with pesticides, is it's 9, and then 4011 would be a banana, right? So
okay.
conventionally made. I used to listen to this guy on YouTube who was a vegan, and he would go into Sprouts and Whole Foods and talk about like conventional fruits versus organic fruits. And you can definitely tell the difference, just like you can with grass-fed and regular beef. But they're crossbreeding the seeds. It's almost like the fruit isn't even in its natural composition anymore.
Sorry, I had a question thing. So I just wanted to make sure that we did cover it, but it was somebody asking if it's common for you to become sensitive, like we were just talking about, to like environmental and to like seasonings and stuff. But yeah, I think we did cover that.
Yeah, I just put salt on mine. Like, I'm so sorry. I love me some salt. And I used to love garlic salt and all the herbs, and I love to season, and but I became so basic and so minimalistic, and eating became so easy. Like, don't put too much emphasis into it. If I can have you take one thing away from our conversation, it's do an N=1 study on yourself. Get to know your body. Don't listen to outside noise. Don't even listen to us if you don't want to. But do a study on
Yeah.
your, get to know your body, be your body's best friend, because the more intuitive you are about knowing your gut, about knowing your limitations, that could just be with people, with stress, right? It could be in every area. If you take away one thing, it's get to know your body, because that comes body wisdom, and out of that body wisdom comes intuitive choices, and then you'll find yourself on a holistic path. You'll find yourself healing in ways that you never thought possible before.
Yeah, totally. 100% agreed. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm glad that we finally were able to do like an interview, and the sound will be recorded and everything. I will post this, and like I'll tag you in it so that it goes on both of our pages after. I did want to ask, so where can people find you, and can people buy the tallow face face moisturizer and the sugar rub? Like, where can we buy it?
If you would like to be my friend, I love friends. I keep it humble, honest, open. I create a safe space on my page. So if you want to be friends, you can find me at Mindfully Grounded on Instagram. And then I also have a link in my bio. So if you would like to try, I sell 2-ounce jars. I make it fresh. I have the beef fat chilling now, and I'll be sending out new orders this week. You're more than welcome to click that link, and it'll take you right to my page, and you can read reviews. You can try it out if you'd like. If you're looking for a moisturizer or you're looking for a little exfoliator scrub, I would love to be your friend, and I would love to bless you with something that I made with my hands. And I will send you something if you would like, Josie, if you would like to send me your address in a private message, I would love to just send it to you, just out of you blessing you with the opportunity to interview with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll definitely promote it because I was gonna say like I would have bought it anyway. Like I'm really interested in trying it. But thank you. Awesome. So thank you again. I'm going to post this in a few minutes probably. I'm just gonna like write out the description and stuff. And thank you so much to everybody who joined the live to watch. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And like I said, if you take away anything, it's please get to know your body and let the healing happen naturally, just like we shared with you here today.
Yeah, I 100% agreed. Okay, thank you so much again. We'll talk soon. All right, bye.
Bye.